Okay, welcome to this week's Ask Me Anything. Every week I go live and I answer questions that you have previously asked. So, just as a reminder for people who might not know and for people who are watching this video later on the same day on YouTube. Okay, so the way that this works is myself, and the team will source questions from Facebook. Now, every week we put out a post asking people to leave a question. Why? Because I want to make sure that these conversations serve you. My vested interest is you. I want to make sure that these conversations are pertinent, that drive attention, that we have these really great conversations. And the reason I do this is because I want to practice what I preach. And what I preach, and may it serve as a reminder to you now, and that is to do the work. Oftentimes, it's so alluring and it's glamorous and it's sizzly to talk about strategy and to talk about the big vision. And it's so, for no other word, it's just sexy and fun to talk about the future. But the only way that I believe you could really deploy on the future and grow into the thing that you are supposed to do is to ensure that you are remaining consistent, not just on platforms that you think are important. Because say whatever people want to say about Facebook, that I am here to talk to people who are on Facebook. And when I create a video to talk to people on YouTube, I'm there to talk to them on YouTube. And when I create a live video, like just this morning when I did a live chat on Instagram, I'm going to where people are. Not because I truly love being on that platform, but it's in the process of creating content for each of those platforms that empowers me to understand what people want to know. I don't want to waste your time talking about things you don't care about. Why? That's a waste of my time. And time is the most valuable asset we own. Much to the chagrin of how people say it's absolutely silly, I am absolutely making Instagram stories every day. On YouTube, I'm posting 2 or 3 videos a week. On LinkedIn, posting 5 days a week. On the podcast, recording sharing 2 or 3 podcast episodes a week. And I do that only to show that I practice what I preach, that I believe in the power of being on the ground level. Do I love the 30,000 foot view? Do I love dreaming with my head in the clouds? Yes, but just like Gary Vaynerchuk says, you can't live with your head in the clouds with your feet not touching the floor. This is talking about doing the dirt. This is about doing the work. This is about us showing up and figuring out, hey, how can my business connect with dream customers, friends? That is why I show up every single week as a reminder. But enough talking about me. I have the question of the week, and that is, if you could travel anywhere, where would you go? Can you leave a comment? Y'all, I have some wanderlust. I am just itching to go on a vacation. You have no idea. I am just itching. At the time of this recording, my husband and I, we don't have custody of our daughter and we haven't finalized our adoption, but I believe with all of my heart that it's going to happen this year. I believe that in 2021, it will happen. And once we get custody and once we finalize her adoption, we will be able to get her a passport. And when we get baby girl a passport, vámonos a Mexico. Okay, we're gonna go to Cabo. I'm just telling you this. This is a little bit of a detour. Let's loop it on back to the questions that you asked this week so we can have a conversation about business. Okay, so Michelle asked a question about authentic connections. As a health coach that loves people and adores helping them achieve their goals, how do I make authentic connections on social media? So, Michelle and anybody else who would like to create authentic conversations, authentic connections on social media, please remember one thing. Social media is just like real life. So, Michelle and anybody else who wants to make authentic connections, when you walk into a room, a wedding reception, an industry mixer, a library event for your kid's school, whatever it is, when you walk into the room, I want to ask you, how are you creating authentic connections? I am telling you this it is just simple folk talk. That's as high as I go. Simple folk talk is as high as I go. What do you do to create authentic connections. I'm not being esoteric. I'm literally asking you a question. Because when you answer it, then you will have the framework for what you should do on social media. Now, I can give you my advice, but that's because it's true to who I am. When I walk into a new room, I will never be the center of attention. I will never be the person who's telling the funniest jokes. I will never be the person who's like, oh yeah, Scott, that's so great. Hang on, Eleanor, I'm on my way. Like, I'm never the person who's in a conversation talking to multiple conversations. I'm not the party goer. I will not be the person who's like, round of shots, here we go. I would never be that person. You might, and that might be your place of power as a business owner. When I want to create authentic connections, all I do is I try to be me. That means that I'm being genuine, I'm being real, and I'm being me. And I want you to be you. If that is center of the party, is that like, the Master Blaster from Lancaster? If that's who you are, you do you. But the way that I have been able to create authentic connections on social media is simply by giving what I want to receive. It is simply by giving what I hope to get. Do I want comments on my account? I have to give comments on other accounts. Do I want people voting on polls in my story? I must vote on other people's stories and polls and quizzes. We, you and me, are entitled to jack squat. Just because we're breathing and we have a business, it means we're entitled to nothing. Nobody should be coming to my account and giving engagement and leaving comments if they're going to sit in a vacuum and I'm not going to respond to them. I am not entitled to get your precious time for you to leave a comment on this live right now. Nor if you're watching this on YouTube later. I'm not entitled to you lifting up 8 fingers to type 4 words. I'm not entitled for it, but dang, when I get it, I do my dang best to respond. And that is the only thing that I'm going to encourage people to do. How do you build authentic connections? Be you. Whatever you would do walking into a brand new room if you don't know anybody, do that, but on social media. And the thing that I have come to know and truly believe, and I really want to thank the team for this beautiful reminder, and that's to aim to serve before you sell. Like if you are being like, I have a business, I'm gonna get my Facebook page. I have a business, chop chop, it's gonna be on LinkedIn, here we go. And then you go in and you're like, I am on this platform for business, therefore I must sell. And I'm just like, oh God, no. If you're on social media to sell, like you're in the wrong place. Do sales happen on social media? Yes, but they happen on the back of. They happen because you've shown up and served and created content and you gave value before you ever expected somebody to hand over their credit card. And I have to tell you, based on my limited experience, but I've also coached 25,000 business owners on the inside of Social Curator, like I kind of say this as fact, is you have to give 10%, 20%, 30% engagement, content, education before you ever expect somebody to engage. And then of the people who engage, a very, 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 very small number of them will actually become customers. A very small number. So if you're saying, Jasmine, I don't have enough customers, I'm like, how much content are you putting out that's not regard to sales, that gives, educates, empowers, or entertains? How often are you doing that? Great. And of the people who are engaging, and if there are none, you go and give engagement before you get it, and then finally it comes and gets it, and then you're responding, of those people, this small people will buy. So if you want more customers, reverse engineer, work backwards and say, oh, I must be creating and doing a lot more. And the answer is yes. So there was one of the questions that were also asked, and also I should actually take a second and make sure if you have questions, please leave them in the comments, because I show up and I like to answer live questions because it keeps me on my dang toes. Okay, so I accidentally did not put in one of the slides that I felt like was super, it's this one. This one is very, very, very important. I'm gonna put this one here. And I really want to have a conversation about this question. Okay, it's a doozy, and I'm going to be honest, and sometimes it makes me feel very exposed when I speak this honestly. But this question is about balancing ambition. So Anne Marie asks, I'd love to hear more on the topic of friends and success. I found that being on top is a lonely place. Once I stopped being friends with anyone and everyone, my circles got real small, real quick. Any advice for loners who are A, fiercely committed to growth, and B, intentional with their friends and with their space? And I have to tell you that reading this question put me in a little bit of a weird spot, because this is a conversation that I've been having with my business partner and my husband lately. And the older I've got and the bigger the business has become, and the fact that I became a mom in 2020, it's just like life and time and where you spend it changes radically. And there have been a lot of friendships of people both ways. I am just as guilty of going through a pandemic, having a child, moving homes, and growing a business all at the same time. So it's not a one-way street. I lost a lot of the time that I had when I was cultivating friendships. And likewise, people aren't reaching out in the same capacity. And instead of getting in my head about it, it must be me, I must be doing something wrong, what could I do to fix this? I decided to shift my mindset and really understand that when it comes to friendship, people are put into your life for certain times. Is that I grew up believing or thinking, either subconsciously or consciously, that when you make a friend, that friend is with you for the rest of your life. That friend is with you in perpetuity. And perhaps that could be the case. I have friends, girlfriends that I met when I was 14, and they're still my very best friends. And then I've made other friendships since then that I was very, very, very close. For years, I was close to these people, and then all of a sudden, our paths diverged. And instead of being upset or really sad about the quote loss, I started thinking that person came into my life when I needed them to teach me something, or for me to teach them. Maybe I needed their help, maybe I needed their insight, maybe they needed mine. And then all of a sudden our paths intersected, and then we went our own ways. And I started thinking that friendship could be like that. And so instead of me thinking that something was wrong with that, I decided to express gratitude for what these people made me discover, both good and bad. There were things that I discovered about myself through friendships that I really loved because I was becoming a different person. And there were things that I really, really, really hated. There was really things that I hated around things that I couldn't be honest. And I realized that I kept my mouth shut for so long when it came to business relationships and friendships, and business and friendship when the lines got crossed, that I ended up being taken advantage of. And I never said anything because I was afraid, and I was a female, and I was younger, and I didn't know which way was up. And so instead of me being upset about wow, for years what I told myself is because I got ripped off in business, I was stupid, I wasn't smart enough, I didn't ask the right questions. I went to law school, why didn't I think about getting a contract that was super dialed in? And then all of a sudden I was like, wait. I expressed gratitude to that person because he taught me how to become stronger. He taught me to never back away from the table. He taught me to defend my worth. And he taught me how to be a stronger businesswoman. And he taught me, come hell or high water, to always have a contract in place. I could be bitter or I can get better. I choose better. Now, if you're at a point to where you're like, I really want friends and I need friends in this time in my life, especially when it comes to business, my advice is to find new friends. I mean, maybe that sounds savage, but if you happen to be hanging out with a group of people who are in a different trajectory, if you happen to be hanging out with people who would rather complain about where they live instead of doing something to change it, if you're around people who are always the victim, right? Things always happen to them. Why always this happens to me? Why did that person get the job promotion and I've been here longer? If you're hanging out with people with the victim mindset, it's time to get new friends. If you're hanging out with people to when you say hey, there is a museum opening, or hey, there's this conference, or hey, let's take a walk and have a conversation, and they're like, why not? Let's just game. Let's just watch Netflix. Why are you trying to go out? Let's just have a kickback in the backyard. Those are great. There's time for that. But if that's the only thing that group of friends wants to do, and you want to do something a little bit different, greater, grander, then it's time for you to find new friends. And that's awkward. I had to go through a time in my life where I said, I need to find new friends. And I'm like, I'm an adult. How do I find friends? And I had a conversation with my husband, and we started off, as lame as it sounds, to define what friendship means to you. Because what I kept on saying, and this is what I tell people often, is be careful what you say because it comes to reality. And what I was saying was just like, I'm like, I just don't think I'm like really good at friendships because I just don't have a lot of time. And my husband was like, you're a great friend. He's like, you're a great friend. He's like, but what you need to do is to define what a friendship means for you. He says, because what happens is you're holding your current version of a friendship differently than your previous experiences with friendship. He's like, your previous experiences with friendship is that you were a good friend if you would always say yes to going out to coffee. You would always say yes to go on group vacations. You would always say yes to do whatever everybody was doing in the group all the time. He's like, that's how you define friendship. And he's like, all of a sudden, your life and ambitions, where we lived, everything changed. I was pulled out and put somewhere else. And because I couldn't say yes to every coffee date or every like brunch event or every group vacation, that I was like, I'm a bad friend. He's like, you're not a bad friend. You just have to change your definition of what a friend is for you now at this stage in life. Okay, tell me my husband isn't just, brother's got it going on. So I defined what a friendship was. And I decided that if somebody wants to be my friend and they always want to go out for coffee, I'm going to always let them down. Because at this stage in my life, with my business the way that it is, with a 15-month-old daughter, and in the process of a move and growing a team, I'm probably not always going to be available for coffee. Am I embarrassed to admit that? Maybe, but it's also my truth. And I'm not going to let my truth hold me back from building out relationships with other people. I used to joke with one of my friends, and I said, I'm so glad we're friends because we could be terrible friends together. And I meant by terrible friends, it was just like, we don't ever talk on the phone. We just send voice memos back and forth to each other. And then like, if I send her a message or if I text her and she doesn't respond for like 3 days, I'm not hurt. But likewise, if she texts me and then I don't respond for a few days, like, that's just how it is. It's like, it's nice to be like, this is the terms of our friendship and we're cool. That might not be cool for other people. So what does this boil down to? As you grow your business, you change. As your business grows, you change. But if you're holding on old definitions of friendships and familial relationships, as you've gone through all of these changes, you're going to beat yourself up thinking, I'm always letting people down. What I have come to do is just let my friends and family know this is who I am and this is what I have. Some people accept it and some people don't. I have had friendships with friends not go away. Nothing ended bad. They just kind of shrunk. And I'm okay with that. Because if I wasn't okay with it, I would beat myself up. And instead, what I say, our paths are going to reconnect in the future. I know they are. But we're at just two entirely different places. And I realized that when I was hanging out with that person, I felt sad. I felt like osmosis, like the negativity and being held back. And I would come back from hanging out with this person. I'd be like, man, I freaking think I need to jump in a pool. I was like, it's just too heavy. It's too complainy. It's too negative. And I thought to myself, it's not this person. It's me. I changed. So I need to vocalize how I change and the terms of this relationship. Okay, so that's my thought on that. I know I am not an expert in relationships or in friendships, but I decided I wanted to speak my truth because there are other business owners who are experiencing the similar thing. And so I'm just going to bring the conversation up to the surface. If this resonates with you, can you let me know in a comment? And if it doesn't, if there are no comments, that's great. I won't ever talk about this again, but I'm only here to serve based on questions that I get and the engagement in response to the answers. Okay, Giselle said, I want to be friends who champion me because I love to champion my friends. Yes! Hang out with other people who will adjust your crown without telling you it was crooked. Yes, I wish I could say I made that up. I read that somewhere on a bumper sticker or on Instagram, but I loved it. Hang out with people who will adjust your crown without telling you it was crooked. Like, let me help you and let me fix you, but I'm not gonna tell you what's wrong, because that's what a good friend does. Yes, may we all champion other people's ambitions just as hard as we do our own. Okay, the Soul Company. What's your best advice for dealing with limiting beliefs that we create for ourselves? We all have limiting beliefs. Everybody. There's not a single person on the face of this earth who doesn't have or experience a limiting belief. The difference is the amount of time somebody will sit in the disbelief. We all will get a thought of, ooh, this might be too big of a project. This might be too big of a client. This might be too much money. I don't know if I know that much information. Everybody gets that. And then some people who have championed and trained their brain to be in a growth mindset, in a positivity, in potential mindset, they spend a few minutes there and they're like, no, we're gonna stop it. And we're like, instead of saying, I don't know how, their brain is trained to say, I will learn how to figure it out. Most people will get to that point, right? Like most people, about, average amount of people are gonna get to the, I can figure it out. But maybe it takes some people 10 minutes and maybe it takes some people 10 hours, 10 days, and sometimes it takes people 10 years. And some people never get to that point. So first we need to normalize the conversation that everybody, myself included, I'm not holding up one hand, I'm holding up two hands. I endure, I go through, I experience limiting beliefs every single day. Every single day. But I've noticed that the more I've been training my brain, which is a muscle, the more that I've been putting it through the gym of growth mindset and consciousness, the more that I have been saying, whoa, reroute that, girl. We ain't got time. We ain't got time to mess with the stress. Because the stress does nothing. The worry does nothing. The fear does nothing. But what does something is like, well, I don't know if this is gonna work, but I'll try it. I would rather be quick to a mistake, whatever people call mistakes. I don't believe in mistakes. I would rather be quick to a lesson than sit suspended in inactivity and inaction because I'm worried. I am too tired of being worried. I lived the vast majority of my life being worried of my success, being worried of the results, being worried what people would think about me, being worried about what people would say about me. I spent the vast majority of my life being worried. And you want to know what? It put me nowhere. The minute I let go, the minute I started thinking of potential, the minute I started saying, who cares what happens? You'll fix it. The minute I said, you will fix it if it ain't right, was the minute I saw these massive shifts in my life. Y'all, at the time of this recording, it is 2021. I began the journey of shifting my mindset in 2016. And I struggled for a year because I was like, this is real stupid. Because the person who was the meanest to myself was me. Nobody spoke sicker and meaner and more disgusting to themselves than me. There wasn't a single thing that anybody in the world could say to me that I hadn't said it to myself, but worse. How sad. How sad. In 2016, I struggled trying to train my brain in a new way. It was like literally I was trying to retrain. I was brainwashing myself. I was washing my brain of the filth I filled it with. In 2017 and 2018, I started realizing, I became aware of the thoughts that I was thinking on my subconscious. In 2019 and in 2020, let me just tell you, friends, something happened and radiated from my brain down to my toes. I was struck with lightning. I am nowhere close to where I want to be. But I am so happy with how far I've come. So if we go back to the question from the Soul Company, what's the best advice for dealing with limiting beliefs is number one, acknowledge that they are limiting beliefs. And then shift the narrative from I don't know how to I will figure it out. Shift the narrative from I don't have enough to how do I find more? Shift the narrative from it's happening to me. You're going to shift the narrative to say it's happening for me. I don't understand why this is happening. I don't understand why I'm not getting customers. I don't understand why my business is not growing. And then you say it's happening for me. I'm supposed to learn something. Somebody once told me that life will continue giving you the same things until you learn the lesson. But if you're always sitting in a perpetual state of why, but why is this happening to me? You're never going to learn. If you keep on getting in these terrible relationships, if you keep on having arguments with your loved ones, if you keep on starting 16 businesses and they're not taking off, step back and ask yourself, what am I supposed to learn? Not why is this happening to me? The minute we embrace learning lessons, faster is the minute we take off. Emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, professionally. I am nowhere where I want to be, but I am so happy with how far I've come. I am a living proof and testament that the greatest skeptic and the biggest bully to oneself can have a transformation in nothing else other than being cognizant of the thoughts and the toxicity of what I was saying to myself, about myself, and about my potential. I am a walking, living proof and testament that by simply changing how I spoke to myself, the results changed and became different. The reason I show up on live video, the reason why I create content on virtually every social platform and on podcasts is because I believe that there are a group of people with massive untapped potential, and they could harness their power simply by changing the way that they thought, turning inactivity into activity, turning being stalled into action, turning fear into fuel. I believe that with every fiber of my being, which is why I show up every single day to talk to anybody who will listen. So if you have made it this far in our conversation, I want to say thank you for listening. Thank you for asking these powerful questions. Thank you for being here. If you found this helpful, if you want to share it, nothing would make me more thankful, because this is how we scale a belief and a message around people's potential. It is always an honor and privilege to show up. I hope you have a great and beautiful day, y'all. Much love. Have a good one.